even if a woman does away with all these traditions, accept it. Marriage can never be a feminist act.
Oh boy, here we go again. Julie, I would actually put them all in some kind of camp. Bindel is going to tell us how marriage can never be a feminist act. Hold on to your preferred pronouns, you cisgendered white male capitalist patriarchy misogynistic oppressors, 'cause this is gonna get ugly.
Dress it up, subvert it, deny it all you want.
Dressing it up, subverting it, and denying it does seem to be their modus operandi for how to deal with the institution of marriage. Case in point, gay marriage, which is an attempt to subvert marriage. That's what they've always been about.
Marriage is an institution that has curtailed women's freedom for centuries.
Well, she's correct. Marriage is an institution that has curtailed women's freedom for centuries. That's true. Marriage curtails women's freedom to just one man. And the freedom which it has curtailed is the freedom to form harems. You see, if completely unrestrained by any kind of moral discipline, men's sexuality and women's sexuality are very different. Men are pretty much going to want to go after any woman who happens to be in front of them at the moment who is at all attractive. Women are not like this. Women all want to go after the single, strongest, richest, most powerful man available. And so the natural pattern, if unrestrained, is that one alpha male pretty much gets most of the females, and then the rest of the males pretty much don't. Not without rape and pillage. And by rape, I mean actual rape, not feminist rape. Rape as its definition is commonly understood, not rape as it is being constantly redefined by feminists. So, what marriage does is makes sexuality egalitarian by saying only one per customer. But what the sexual revolution does is completely break that up. Let me explain how the sexual revolution came about. This did not literally happen. It's a sort of a myth. But it's a myth that is true to life, like most myths are. You see, what happened was that sometime in the 1950s or so, a bunch of rich fat cats got together in a secret, smoke-filled room somewhere. And they said, boy, those newfangled bikinis sure are hot, aren't they? You know what? We've got all this cash from the results of World War II. And we really want to turn this cash into being able to get all the pretty women. But we can't because there is this monogamy in the way. We can have mistresses, quietly, if we keep it real quiet. But we're tired of doing that, and that still limits the number of women we can get. And we really want more variety. And so what we're going to do is we're going to sell women the lie that marriage is inherently oppressive to them, thus freeing up all the young women in their 20s to go after the richest, strongest, most powerful men available. That would be us. And never mind that marriage is what gets all the young men out of bed in the morning to go out into the world and work in our industries for their woman's benefit when they'd rather stay home and lay around in bed all day. We're going to redefine what Marxists have in the past called capitalist wage slavery as a form of male privilege. We're going to increase our workforce by pushing as many women as possible into it. So we're going to basically make out like bandits, and we're going to get the Marxists to preach our doctrine for us. because Marxists are stupid. And so what the sexual revolution did was kind of the opposite of what the communist revolution was supposed to do. See, the communist revolution was always supposed to be Robin Hood. It was supposed to be taking from the rich and giving to the poor. But what the sexual revolution does is it takes from the poor and gives to the rich. Feminists think that the sexual revolution liberated women from being treated as commodities. But in reality, under the sexual revolution, women are treated as commodities and traded around a lot more than they ever were before. If you divorce sex from any of its spiritual/religious aspects and look at it solely as a materialistic phenomenon, then it becomes describable in terms of economics. It's all supply and demand. Women are the supply, men are the demand. And what the sexual revolution did is dramatically increase the supply, thus lowering the price.
But instead of rejecting the patriarchal and outdated tradition, some feminists have decided to reclaim it. We may have progressed since the Industrial Revolution, where Mary Wollstonecraft described marriage as little more than a state of legal prostitution.
If women were legalized prostitutes under monogamy, as feminists claim, then under the sexual revolution, they are cheaper legalized prostitutes. And the few rich and powerful alpha males who are able to get way more females than they otherwise would have because of the sexual revolution at a much lower price are laughing at women all the way to the bank.
But let's not kid ourselves. Even today, marriage is not about equality.
She's right again. Marriage has never been about equality. At least not equality between the sexes. It has been about egalitarianism or equality between men. And getting rid of it has introduced inequality on a much larger scale than we ever had it before.
It's about perpetuating male privilege. Being given away by your father may seem cute and romantic.
That's because it actually is romantic. But she's right that these reformers to the idea of marriage aren't going to be able to just siphon off the romance apart from its context of all the things that actually made it romantic.
But it stems from a time when women were seen literally as their fathers and then their husband's property.
And now we live in a time when women are seen as the rich and powerful's property.
The majority of brides still opt for a white gown.
Beautiful? Yes, indeed.
But the implication that brides should be virgins is both ludicrous and insulting to women. That a female who has had sex is somehow spoilt goods goes against everything feminists claim to stand for.
Yes, because feminists stand for promiscuity. They stand for women giving sex away to the richest and most powerful when they're young, and then being cast aside when they are old, so that they end up dying sad and alone in a house full of cats.
I know feminists who've taken their husband's name because they say it's easier. Easier than changing your passport, email address, utilities bills and bank account details, I suppose. You're basically being branded, so anyone who sees your name knows immediately who you belong to.
There are reasons why the wife takes the husband's name and not the other way around. It's in order to show legitimacy. And by legitimacy, I mean that the kids know who their daddy is. Because on a natural level, there's no particular reason why they'd know who their daddy is. We all know which woman they came out of, but it's not at all clear unless we use cultural artifacts like the tradition of taking the husband's name to make it clear that we know who the father is, and here we have a family unit that is bringing continuity with the past. And so Julie Bindel is right. This is inherently opposed to feminism. But it's not opposed to feminism because it's branding women. It's opposed to feminism because it's branding children. So she's understated her case.
Even if a woman does away with all these traditions, accept it. Marriage can never be a feminist act. It has formed the backdrop to women's oppression for centuries, and it continues to do so. Forced marriage, child brides and polygamy all show how human rights violations of women and girls all too often go hand in hand with marriage.
Right, because all of those things go hand in hand with the definition of marriage as understood by the Christian conservatives that you're up against politically. It's not like your side has been trying to radically redefine marriage to include more and more things. And of course, the problem with expanding a definition of an institution to include more and more things is that when you get rid of the exclusivity of an exclusive club, you pretty much also get rid of the club. And the power to get rid of the club is exactly what gay activists, like Julie Bindel, have wanted all along. You see, now that they're in power, this is the part where they're going to turn around and go, "Fooled you! Marriage isn't actually what we wanted." Gay activists have been dishonest about what their goals are from the beginning. They have never wanted to expand marriage to include gays. They have always wanted to get rid of marriage. That's what this has always been about. Just like this transgender bathroom decree/threat isn't designed to open bathrooms of the other gender to transgender people. It's designed to get rid of male and female bathrooms. And hopefully to get conservatives to say crazy radical sounding things so that they can score political points. But that's going to be very difficult if they keep having honest people like Julie Bindel on their own side who say plenty of crazy and radical things of their own. As crazy and radical as her ideas are, you have to give her points for honesty and internal consistency, which is more than I can say for any of the gay activists I've met.
So if you want to get married, then just get on with it. But please stop pretending that because you're a feminist, it's some kind of subversive statement.
Julie, you have to remember the strategy that made your side so successful, the historical dialectic. You don't just fight against institutions, you have to infiltrate them and change what they mean.
As the late human rights lawyer Paula Ettelbrick said, marriage is a great institution, if you like living in institutions.
I don't think that line's going to get you very far, Julie, because there are millions and millions of women who rather like living in the institution of marriage.